Hello, class. My name is Kori Wenman, and today I am going to read to you my final paper, Cell Phones and the Children That Love Them. Living in a technologically driven world seems to be the norm for majority of the population. Every moment of a person's life is affected by technology in some way. Watching old movies would paint a picture of artificial intelligence taking over the world and humans becoming slaves to the very technology they work so hard to develop. It may seem that movies like this are just fiction, but there are also arguments that a less literal interpretation would prove the claims of the movies to not be so far fetched. As the world continues to turn and become more reliant and dependent on technology, younger portions of the population are gaining access through smart homes, computer based learning, and cell phones. It has been 15 years since the introduction of the iPhone, and in that time, over 21 different variations have been released, and it has changed the modern world in ways that could have never been predicted. 2.5 billion people around the world own some variant of a smartphone, pioneered first by the iPhone. The introduction of the smartphone did not just bring the combination of calculators, cameras, and calendars, it brought the entire internet into the palm of the hand of the user. This unrestricted access to all things wireless drove the demand behind the development of mobile applications in the world of social media. Mobile devices have become the must have in a person's daily routine and will continue to shape the demands of the technology world. On the face of it, the idea of a teenager or children even younger having a cell phone may seem like a promising idea. For many parents, the convenience and safety that is provided by having access to the outside world always seems like a positive outcome in this increased technological world. However, the question becomes, is it as safe as parents believe? The reality is, by giving a child a cell phone, a parent is not only getting constant access to their child, but their child has unrestricted access to the entirety of the internet, including social media applications. Most parents are unaware of the dangers of giving their child a cell phone. A poll conducted by BBC Learning found almost 1 in 5 children say they had seen something on their devices that had upset them, twice the number parents had thought. That survey also found that children in the ranges of 13 and 16-year-old were more likely to be a victim of cyberbullying, yet parents were far less concerned about the dangers facing this age group. The statistics regarding cyberbullying are simply shocking. According to Cook, a 2018 Pew Research study found that a majority of teens experience some form of cyberbullying. Within the 59% of children being cyberbullied, the most common forms are through offensive name calling, purposeful embarrassment, physical threats, stalking, sexual harassment, or sustained harassment. Even if a child is part of the 41% not experiencing cyberbullying, the appeal of social media challenges presents a unique and sometimes fatal hazard to young and developing minds. The social media app TikTok recently came under scrutiny after a viral challenge was linked to several deaths of children, including a 12-year-old boy from Aurora, Colorado. The challenge, referred to as the Blackout Challenge, tempted viewers to hold their breath until the point of passing out. While TikTok and other social media apps have requirements that subscribers must be 13 years or older, this is an easy requirement to circumvent and find a way around. The federal government enacted an act to specifically protect children regarding the internet and the content available. The Children's Internet Protection Act, or CIPA, was passed in 2000, 7 years before the iPhone was released, and it specifically addresses concerns about children's access to obscene or harmful content over the internet. The Act further outlines and defines how it works to protect children, but it also specifies the education and awareness that falls to the schools and responsibility. Despite the efforts made by the federal government to protect children, the fact remains that children are still accessing inappropriate content online, and most of it is coming through the access that is provided by modern-day smartphones. The buck must stop somewhere. Primarily, as is the case with many issues related to minor children, parents should always be the first line of defense. Parents should carry the burden of educating and monitoring their children to develop healthy relationships with technology. Safety and security should be paramount for any parent who is making the choice to provide their child with a cell phone. Many will say that the makers of the cell phone or the service providers should be the primary position of responsibility when it comes to protecting children on the internet. While morally, everyone should be responsible for protecting and educating children, the reality and legal view is that It is not everyone's responsibility. The government has long worked to protect its citizens not only from external threats, but at times also from one another. There are laws that protect children, but as in most cases, the laws are reactionary and do not prevent a crime from happening, but aim to deter the criminal activity through the threat of punishment. Parents may feel cell phone manufacturers and service providers are responsible, and cell phone manufacturers and service providers may feel it should be better defined and clarified by the government. The government, always working to find the balance from providing structure and order while giving parents freedom of choice, may feel this is an issue that defers back to the family. In the middle of this triangle lies a child who often remains unguarded. Blame may not be the name of the game in this scenario, but there are plenty of biases to go around. Most of the biases are occurring on the part of the parents in the form of restraint bias and self-serving biases. When purchasing a cell phone for their child, parents are overestimating their child's ability to control an addiction to technology that will only increase over time. Then that bias transforms into self-serving bias. If a child puts their cell phone on Do Not Disturb while driving, parents feel it's because of their influence. However, when a child inevitably is cyberbullied, then it becomes a result of the government and cell phone service providers failing to protect children. Much like the triangle outlined before, these scenarios continue to circle back to the parents, where the discussion around cell phones starts and ends. Thus far, a picture has been painted of parents on their own when it comes to protecting their children on the internet and with cell phones. This is not the case, and it does not always stem from a federal law or statute. Companies like Microsoft have committed to not only taking action to increase the safety for children online and through cell phones, but also provide free resources to parents and children to become aware and educated of the dangers online. This is just one way that a company is working to protect children, because while a company may not be required to protect children, companies are more than capable of accomplishing this goal. So what can be done? Anything and nothing all at once. There can be regulations put in place requiring cell phone manufacturers and service providers to install additional security software on devices being purchased for minors. An act can even be introduced that would detail a tiered program that restricted the use and access of mobile devices for children at certain age intervals. These types of conventions are in place regarding the operation of a vehicle, so why not a vehicle of access? If a similar structure has already been established in the form of issuing driver's license, which are only required by law to operate a vehicle, then a similar restriction should be put in place, right? The answer in this particular comparison is simple. The granting of a driver's license does not change the fact that a new driver still needs to be more cautious, limit their access to high-risk situations, or continue to practice and develop a new skill. The same goes for cell phones. There are laws in place to protect children, and while nothing is perfect in its execution, the responsibility of possessing a cell phone requires education and model behavior to reinforce what is wrong and right when it comes to cell phone use. It might be argued that this is doing nothing while crimes are being committed against children using cell phones. The reality is no law will be able to ever prevent these crimes from being committed. While it is disheartening and overwhelming, the best course of action in reducing crime against children using cell phones is through the parents and children themselves. The approach should be less about laws to prevent the action of others, but instead more about providing the tools and resources for parents to protect their children. And that is my report. Thank you very much.